We're back and better than ever.
You're gonna have to restart.
We're back and better than ever. Yeah, that's how you enter a podcast. Okay, so guys, welcome back to the Keep Me Different podcast.
Whoop, whoop.
This is episode number 2. Our topic is relationships, dating, and marriage, and all that good stuff. Deanna is here to stay. She's actually the co-host, so. Every time you tune into this podcast, prepare to see us both. So
I am now an elite employee.
We're not getting paid for this, though. But with that being said, with us talking about relationships, we're going to talk about it in like subcategories. So we're going to talk about singleness, dating, and then marriage. She'll mostly speak on that marriage part because your girl is not married. I don't know what that is like. So...
And I haven't been married too long, so
hey, that's experience still. But I guess we can get into singleness. So, what would you say you did while you were single most of the time?
I don't know. It really just depends on like the time of my life that we're talking about here, because I feel like it can go either way.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when I was single, when I was not focused on God, I was very sad all the time, very like wanting something and was settling for whatever I can find to help. Or like the time that I was single where I was purposely being single and I was purposely like keeping my eyes on God and growing that relationship. So I feel like it really just depends on
the season
that you're in, because that definitely does a lot for you, and you have different stories and you have different perspectives about things during those times. So
I'd say like for the season of not being intentional with God and like just being single and wanting and hoping for a relationship, I've been there, and I would say it is frustrating and it's definitely draining to like be longing for something so bad but not even focusing on the one who gives you those things, and not focusing on him because he gives you those things, but focusing on him because he loves you and he wants you to have those things, but he wants you to have him first and understand what love even is from God first. And so that's so hard to be in that season because I didn't even know what it was that pulled me out of that, just wanting a relationship, wanting to be with someone, but not even going to God yet, if that makes sense. Like, were you ever in a season like that?
Yeah, I would definitely say like all throughout high school, that was me. I always said like I want someone who loves God, but like that was like the main line. Like it wasn't necessarily like, yeah, you can say you believe in God, but if you don't go to church, like if you don't, it was like I was settling for just whatever or whoever I could find in that moment, because like I so desperately I craved attention. I craved boys' attentions, and like that was the issue the whole time. Like I was looking for earthly attention and fleshly attention instead of like growing my relationship with God, because it needed to be grown. Like I was very immature in my faith, even though I lived around it all the time. Like I said in the last podcast, my dad was a pastor, so I heard about God all the time. And even that, I was still immature in my faith because I chose to go down this path of finding boyfriends and constantly wanting someone to give me that, like, I don't want to say physical love, but like the love that you can like
for sure
see the other person giving it to you, you know? Like now I see that God loves me, and I know that God loved me back then, but like it wasn't like a me and you type thing. Like it wasn't someone like vocally actually telling me like I love you, you're so beautiful, and like stuff like that. And I wanted that. I craved that.
I felt
in the sense of relationship wise. And so all throughout high school I was finding people who were like, yeah, I believe in God. I believe there's God. But like they didn't go to church faithfully, they didn't serve, their relationship was stagnant, and so was mine. So I'm not like saying anything on that. But like that's what I was getting at, because I was not focused on the right thing in the moment, which was growing my relationship with God.
I would so agree. Like all throughout high school, and I never even came to this conclusion until recently, but I had this I just looked up what I was like going through, and
Uh-huh.
there was like this word, it's called limerence, and it's basically the need to just be infatuated with someone
Mhm.
all the time,
Yeah.
and then once you're over that, it's like on to the next immediately.
Yeah.
And all throughout high school, college, like everything, I realized I'm always having to be obsessed with someone, and it's not
Yeah.
even that I like that person, but it's like I need something to fulfill my mind, like
Yeah.
imagine all of that stuff. And I'm just like, man, that is crazy. And I think when I finally realized that a while ago, that's what put me in a state, okay, I need to seek God, and not so that he can give me a relationship, not because
Yeah.
I need him to help me fix myself and my like intentions and all of that.
Yeah.
And so I relate. I've always like had bad infatuations with just men in general, and just wanting to, it's not even that I want to be loved, but it's like I like the chase of it. I
Yeah.
like the wondering. I wonder if he likes me back. I like it's just
Yeah.
the
Like the
thrill
little
of it.
flirting,
Literally,
the little butterfly
I just love
feelings.
the thrill of that comes with like relationships and new beginnings to things.
And that
And
like that feeling is so addictive.
it
It really
literally
is.
is.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I even think back on like now and I'm just like I remember like having those feelings like, oh my gosh, she texted me back.
Literally,
Oh my
dude.
gosh. And it's like so addictive.
He
Like
liked my
and
story.
it like
Yo.
changes your perspective too because it's like something that I didn't realize and I kind of like realized it in high school when it was happening, but I kind of ignored it. Was
Mm-hmm.
like guys would come up to me. It wasn't the guys that I liked, but guys would come up to me or like we'll be friends and like later down the road they are like start flirting and
Uh-huh.
they start like and everybody's like ooh like that person likes you and I would not have liked him before,
Mm-hmm.
had no feelings before that,
Yeah.
but the
Mm-hmm.
moment that like
Dude.
it was present on their side that they liked me, it was like oh I like you
Oh.
back and it was like a week later I was like
Mm-hmm.
no
Yeah.
and like that's so sad to say, like I feel
I
so bad saying
uh-huh.
that out loud but
It's relatable though, because I know that there's other people who have gone through the same exact thing. Where it's not just us. It can't
yeah.
be. It better not be. That's sad, but no,
we
I
just
relate. It's
we
just
just exposed ourselves to
us
that.
girls. Like I love being a girl, but dang, we be doing a lot sometimes
Yeah.
when it comes to boys and
Yeah.
maturity. But moving from like that portion of being single and like
Yeah.
chasing men for the wrong reasons, going into when you finally realize like your identity in Christ. And that's another thing. I don't know if this should be talked about with singleness. I guess so, because it's
Yeah.
something to think about when you are about to date, is your identity is not found in men. It's not
Yes.
found
Yes.
in whoever God has for you. Your identity is found in Jesus Christ himself. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so I would not, that's another thing when you do start to try like dating and, looking for love
Yeah.
or whatever, that person's not going to complete you.
Nope.
You don't look for fulfillment or completeness in that person. You have to find that within God and yourself first, and then that's when the love will
Yeah.
come along and all of that.
Yeah.
But moving from that portion of being single and not really having God as your forefront thought, going into singleness with that, what would you like, what advice would you give for people that are single and trying to chase God right now
Yeah.
but are maybe like a little distracted?
Yeah. I would definitely say, like, definitely figure out what you and your relationship with God is. Like Destiny said, identity is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you don't have a relationship with the God who literally created love, how can you understand it? And how can you find someone who believes the same thing as you?
Yeah.
Because like that's also very important. Is like finding someone who believes the same thing as you. Like I look back and like there's a Bible verse where it says like don't be unequally yoked. And there's a lot of like misconceptions about that verse,
Mm-hmm.
but it's talking about believers and unbelievers. Like
Yeah.
the Bible literally says that you can like it would be very hard to be with a believer and it says it advises not to be. It
Yeah,
literally says do not be unequally yoked and I feel like that's very
for
important.
sure. That
So
goes with like, you can't fix him, ladies. I just
no.
want to say that.
No.
You are not going to come into his life
Yeah,
and
nope.
fix him. Now, you might be able to plant the seed for
Yeah.
sure, but you have to let God do the rest. I would not go into the relationship thinking, I'm going to fix this, because that's not your job.
No.
That's only going to leave you drained at the end of the day. Speaking from personal experience, I remember hanging out with this guy one time, and we were not equally yoked, because this was like at the beginning of my faith when I really like God had pulled me through something.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like, Lord, you have me. All like everything, I surrender all. So I was hanging out with this guy. I'm not lying. I kind of thought he was the one for some reason. And so we're hanging out talking, and like as it's going on, I'm realizing like, yeah, he's not really there with Christ. But he showed me his little Bible, and I was like, but he has a Bible.
Like yeah.
That's a good sign.
We like check it off a
Literally.
list almost.
Like,
and it's
okay.
like the first check, it's like, okay, I guess you passed. Like
literally. And so that guy was like the death of me because I really thought, I kept praying about it. I was like, God, like, I know he's not all the way there yet, but come on, like, I feel like I can help him, you know? He's got a Bible to start off with.
And I feel like we like talked about that in our first podcast. Like, it's not your job. Like, that's something, like, we're literally here to plant seeds, and God works through that. And
for sure. I just want to let y'all know, yeah, you
can't do it. You're not.
It's not your job.
Yeah, you're not a magician. I'm sorry.
Leave it to God. You know, let go and let God. And with that being said, so singleness going into dating, that's like a transition. I feel like, because we just said before we started this podcast, back in the Bible, there really was no dating.
Nope. There wasn't.
You just got married, you know?
And, like, marriage and, like, dating happened, like, at a very young age in the Bible. Like, teenager age. So, very different in context here.
This society is very different, for sure. Yeah. Like, the world we live in today is nowhere near the same as then. So, it's like, we have to kind of take what we have in the Bible and apply it to these days and age without rewriting it and trying to make it something different, you know, trying to be obedient to it. So with dating, for me, dating is always, once I did come into that relationship with God and I was reading my Bible, I was like, well, what is the point of dating? Like, in my head, I'm just like, I can never wrap my head around dating these days, because it's like, well, if I'm praying and, you know, I'm seeking God and not the relationship, when he does send me, you know, the guy he has for me, it's not going to be a question of, is this, you know, I'm going to know. Yeah. And so dating is always, I couldn't wrap my head around, like, not in a sense of boyfriend, girlfriend, like, okay, I get that, and then you get married and all that. Yeah. But it's like dating multiple people. That's what I never could wrap my head around.
Yeah. And I think that it is super important, like, kind of to, talk on this, but also, even in the sense, like, before that, like, you have to, in the stage of singleness, and when you're being purposeful in it, like, that season in your life, you should be taking that and really focusing on God and understanding that he is the one that needs to have your all in all.
Right.
Not some guy, not some girl. Like, he's the one that has your all in all. And something for me personally, like, I didn't find my person until I took a step away from dating and focused on him. And same with, like, Kyle to an extent. Like, he definitely had to step back a little bit and be like, well, what am I supposed to do here? Like, and, like, he prayed about it. And that's another thing is like, there's so many things to be purposeful in the singleness stage.
I think you should go into detail about your personal experience with, like, taking that step back, and what did you realize in that? Like, were you seeking a relationship before you realized, okay, let me calm down, or was it, like, what was that?
It was the transition from my senior year in high school to my freshman year of college. I had just gotten out of a relationship, and I realized that I was going to a Christian college, and I was like, you know what? Like, I've been dating people. I know, like, my dad literally told me, your people picker is, like, wrong. Like, something is wrong with it, because you're just not picking the right people.
Your good men radar. A little
bit. And so, like, I definitely took a step back, and I was like, you know what, my first year of college, like, academics when I got into college was something very important to me. Like, I messed it up in high school. I want to do better in college. And so, like, I said, I'm going to step away from boys. I'm going to learn how to live on my own and learn how to be an adult on my own.
I love that.
Without my parents being there. Because, like, yeah, growing up as a pastor's daughter, like, there was always rules. There was always, like, you can't do this, can't do that. And, like, I had to learn, like, oh, mom and dad's not here anymore. So do I want to continue to honor them and how they raised me? Or do I want to, like, do what I want, get in trouble, and go down a different path? Right. And so learning how to do all those things, living on my own, never been away from my parents, never been anything like that. And I realized that I'm gonna be there, and it was a culture shock for me because I went from settling for guys in high school,
Word.
like guys that literally just said, "Yeah, I believe in God," to guys who literally are like coming to college to get a degree in ministry and like locals like church serving. And so it was like, oh my god, there's so many people here that I've like been looking for like my whole life, like, and it took a minute to be like, okay, I need to actually sit down, like, calm down. I realize that there's a lot of people here, there's a lot of new opportunities here, and I really want to get plugged in and not have to worry about the drama of school and dating, because my school was also very small, and like everything that happened got passed around real fast. Real fast, like 300 people.
You love small schools.
And so that first year I definitely focused. It was a purposeful singleness. Like I literally set time before I even got there, and I was like, I don't want to date anybody. I want to focus on making Christian friends, because that was another like shock to me too, was I had friends who were just as serious about their relationship with Christ and was like keeping me accountable. Like, have you read your Bible today? When was the last time you prayed? When was the last time you got mentored or you were a mentor? And that had never happened to me. Like, I was in my youth group, I was always the one that was more mature in my relationship with Christ. And so
I love that. Yeah.
And that's like another thing. Was like everything goes with dating, singleness, or whatever. It's like surround yourself with people who have the same goals as you, because I surrounded people with my at school, and they were like, you need to do this better. The way you're acting is not really in a Christian way of acting. And like they push you towards those things, even in terms of relationships. And so
I love that.
Yeah, it was very purposeful, and I feel like that is you'll look at singleness differently once you realize, like, okay, I need to do it to fix my relationship with Christ first.
Right.
Because you can bring so much into a relationship, and the Bible says like you need to keep your relationship focused on you need to keep your relationship focused on Christ. Even in like your relationship, even in your marriage, people say like you need to be centered around Christ. And so if you don't know how to center yourself around Christ without being in a relationship, how can you do it with being in a relationship with another sinner? Because
come on,
the person that you're with is not perfect. I mean, they're just as fleshly as you are.
And that's like another thing with like being single, as you're single as well. I mean, your husband's also single, working on himself. So it's like, don't be single and stagnant. Don't be single and, I am gonna focus on, I'm just like gonna wait for him to come to me. You know what I'm saying? No, be single and intentional. Like Jana said, like read your Bible, focus on God, like listen to what he's trying to tell you, even about yourself. I think in this season for me, that's definitely like big for me. I pray like, God, reveal myself to me. Like, what parts of me do I need to rid myself of? What more of you do you need to fill me with? Like, be intentional in your single season, because your husband's not just hopefully, the God that has it, he's not just sitting around praying for his wife to come. Like, it says a man in the Bible, Proverbs, I believe it says, a man that finds a wife finds a good thing. It's not a wife that finds a man.
Yeah.
So, but it also says a man that finds a wife. So you need to be intentional about how to better yourself as a wife, not a girlfriend, not a fling, but a wife. He's not going to find a girlfriend. He's going to find a wife. So I think for sure being intentional and purposeful in your single season is really big.
Yeah.
It looks like Joe is calling me. I thought I put my phone on D&D.
But yeah, it's definitely like a very important step. And it's something that can't be missed. It's something that you can't just like look over.
Word.
Because I feel like when I was having singleness before, God was showing me, oh, your eyes are not on me. You don't want to grow your relationship with me. You want something that's earthly and something that's fleshly. And marriage is such a good thing. Like, it's a covenant to God. It is. I'm not like downgrading that or like downplaying it. But like, obviously your first concern is your relationship with Christ. And even in your marriage, it's Christ then for me, my husband, and then family. Like
Mm-hmm.
Christ is always the center. And so I feel like that was something that God opened my eyes to, was you're not really living for me. You're not wanting to grow your relationship with me. You're wanting to have this type of affection. You
Uh-huh.
want to have this type of guys who are saying that you're pretty and they like you for reasons
Mm-hmm.
that you shouldn't be told that. Like,
Yeah, I for
and
sure agree. I think it like that all ties under like idolization in a sense, because
yeah,
idolization is like putting anything before God, and
yeah,
in a sense you're putting like your desire to want these things and have these things above God. And I mean, I've done it before too. I
yeah.
literally,
Oh, for
it just
sure.
got out of
Nope.
a season
Yep.
like that. So it's, I would say, to help you in that sense, because I don't want to just like tell you what it is, but I want to give you advice on how to like overcome that.
Yeah.
It's really comes down to denying yourself, and that's
Yeah.
something that a lot of people don't want to do, and that's probably one of the hardest parts about this walk is
Yeah.
denying yourself and doing it for a bigger purpose, and the bigger person like purpose being Jesus. Like
Yeah.
he,
For sure.
John 3:16, he died on the cross for our sins. God has sent his only son. And so denying your flesh and your fleshly
Yeah.
desires, that's gonna be what really helps you to focus on God, because as you're fighting those temptations, fighting those desires to turn back, you're going to realize how much God loves you in that, and just getting strength from Him,
Mhm.
guidance from
Yep.
Him, hearing Him. So, yeah.
I would definitely say, like, adding to that, the Bible literally says like that your heart is deceitful.
Mm-hmm.
And so in our society, in our culture, everybody says follow your heart.
Right.
If your heart says this, do this. And the Bible goes completely against that. Like God's word
Right.
goes completely against that. And so don't always think with your
Mm-hmm.
heart. Don't always think with your emotions, because that can put you in two different ways. And who knows which way you're going to take and where it's going to
Mm-hmm.
end. You
Yeah.
know? Like I've used my emotions to think with, and that led me down a very wrong path.
Mm-hmm.
And once I started relaying my desires to God, like
Mm-hmm.
it became something different. And
Yeah.
I was able to be like, okay, God, I need you to help me understand what this, if this is good for me
Right.
or if this isn't good for me, because right now my heart's telling me this, but I know that it can be lying to me sometimes, and it can be telling me to do things that I know I'm not supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's just as important too, is to know.
I agree. That's so hard. And like and we're not sugarcoating it. It's extremely
Oh
hard
yeah.
to lay down, things, but I don't know, what helps me keep going is like thinking, well, I'm sure it was hard for Jesus to
Oh
carry his own cross
yeah.
after he'd just been beaten, die a sinner's death. So it's like, all right, he did that for me. The least I could do is not be lustful, not
Yeah.
be sinful. You know what I'm saying? So just those
Yeah.
little things. And
I feel like our society has definitely like pushed relationships in our face.
yeah.
Like I
Uh-huh.
think about it now, like growing up, I had like a wedding Pinterest board in middle school. Like
Same.
I was
Oh my
watching
gosh.
Say Yes to the Dress like
Come
in middle
on.
school,
Literally.
and
Uh-huh.
Disney like
High School
Princess.
Musical.
Yeah.
The rooftop scene plays in my head
The
non-stop.
waltz.
Like literally.
Nobody knows the waltz these days in our
I
generation.
man, I used to think, oh yeah, one day I'm gonna dance in the rain with my
The
future
fact that
man to
like
this song. Dude, I
the
literally,
fact that two high schoolers just went up there and like waltzed perfectly, like it
come
was Dancing
on.
with the Stars
And
almost.
sang, and then the rain falling at like the most perfect time as she spins and her hair
It was
flies.
such
Like,
an unrealistic
come on, the standard.
expectation.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, right
Nope,
here.
that's not how it is in real life.
It's not.
That's how it
I
was
have
written on a
yet to
movie
dance in the
screen.
rain. Not yet. But
But yeah, so like definitely think that like it doesn't help, and I think that's half the
mm-hmm.
reason why we long so
For
much for a
sure.
relationship, is because it's constantly being pushed in our face.
Mm-hmm.
Like even in Bible school, like a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, if I'm not married by the time I'm graduating, like what am I going to do with my
Isn't
life?"
there a saying like ring by
Ring by
spring?
spring. Yes, that is definitely
Oh man.
my school is called Baptist Bridal College.
Wow.
Um
I just caught that. I was like, okay.
but like there was a lot of times where like girls would be that I went to school with would be like so like, I don't want to say hurtful them to themselves, but like
Mm-hmm.
almost like downplaying what they can do for God
Yeah.
if they weren't married by the time they graduated,
Mm-hmm.
like,
For sure.
and that's like the complete opposite. One of my friends was literally like a part of a youth ministry team up in New Mexico, running tons,
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of kids, and she graduated Baptist Bible College. Found her, she has a boyfriend now, but found him there. Like,
Uh-huh.
she graduated.
Yeah.
Her sister did the same thing, graduated single, and then found her person later on in life. Like, it's not so like, well, if you don't have a man, you
Right.
can't do anything. Like, no. You can do just as much stuff for Christ
Mm-hmm.
as you can while being married. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's important to know too. Is
I
like,
agree.
singleness may just be your time and place right now, but you can still do just as much for Christ now in this time than you can when you're married and sharing ministry with your husband. Like, do what you can now.
Yeah.
Plant those seeds now, because you're just growing your relationship. You're getting your heart ready for that relationship, and God's working on you
Mm-hmm.
and preparing you for that.
I
So,
think another thing to understand is like God's timing.
yeah.
God's
Yep.
timing, it does not change. But I think I remember seeing somebody do like a sermon on this, and it was like his timing doesn't change, but you being stagnant can prolong
Mm-hmm.
when that blessing comes, or when
Yeah.
you meet whoever it is that God intends for you to meet. And so it's like me right now, I am single, but I am trying my hardest to stay
Hey, you
focused
know what?
and seek God in this season. And so if I were to just be sitting on my butt, not really trying to get to know God right now, just trying to take it as it is and live my life, that's going to prolong me from coming into the person that
Yeah.
God wants me to be first. And then it's
Yeah.
going to prolong me from meeting all the people that God is planning to come into my life at specific times. And so I think it all goes back again to being purposeful in your season of
Yeah.
singleness. Like, don't be stagnant. Don't be sad that you haven't gotten whatever it is that you're praying for. Like, be consistent and know that God is not, He is a God of His word. You know, He's gonna fulfill whatever desire it is that He has for you within His will. And so just be patient.
Yeah.
Like, patience. You have to
Yeah.
have that. Deanna will tell you, maybe don't pray for that if you're not ready for that. But
Yeah.
if you are, then expect some trials to come.
Yeah. Because He'll use that opportunity. He'll send you things to help you remain patient in. But yeah, like, my time when God sent me my blessing, I guess you can call him a blessing.
For sure. Yeah.
When He sent, like, I had already had like my year of singleness. Like, I've already had, like, I already spent time in God's word and growing in God's relation, like having that relationship with God. And then I got him after. Like, I met my husband after that moment.
Yeah.
And
That's crazy.
I feel like that was on purpose. The reason why God did that was because He was realizing, okay, you're desiring love in a way that's not important right now.
Right.
Like, what's important right now is you focusing your relationship with me, God wise. And I did that. I took that moment. I got involved in my local church. I started serving. I started really reading my Bible, and I started doing these things. And then He came after.
Yeah.
Like, I met my husband after. And so I feel like there's a reason why everyone talks about singleness as a stage of life and how it's important. It's because it's a time for you to focus on yourself and your relationship with Christ, because that relationship needs to be established before any other relationship is established.
For sure, because you cannot know love without knowing God. God is love.
Yep.
Can I just say, Kyle and Deanna are so cute. Last night at youth, I just found out they have date nights every week. What? That is so cute. I love that. I bet that's so fun. I'm not jealous at all, because the Bible tells me not to be jealous. But yeah, that's really cute. I love that. Y'all should do that forever.
Yeah, we try.
That is so cute.
Our life is very busy, but we do. That's something, and we'll talk about that like when we get to the marriage part. But it's very important to set aside time for you and your person. But I feel like, honestly, like, transitioning into like dating, I feel like there's so many things.
Oof.
There's so many things, because I feel like the way our generations now view dating is just like, oh my goodness gracious, what is going on? And like, I just don't understand some of
Like
the
I
things that are going
said,
on.
I cannot that like when you really are in your word and like focusing on God, it's like I can't fathom dating multiple people looking for the right because it's like I don't think it's something we should be looking for. It's something that
Yeah.
God brings to you in due time. So
Yeah.
I can't even really give knowledgeable advice on dating because it's not something that I
Yeah.
do or want to do or like recommend even. I just feel like I don't know. As Christians, it was never taught to
Yeah.
date. Like
Yeah. Nope.
I can't. No, the only thing I can say is I don't want to tell you not to date because I mean, like
Yeah.
you do as you please. You know, to
Yeah.
each their own. Dating. I would just say if you are dating and say you're with someone, we can talk. I could talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
The red flags to look for and like to
Yeah.
the things to notice when okay maybe God did not send him to me, maybe
Yeah.
this is not the man of God that I should be looking for. We should name some red flags. So I would say one red flag. I feel like I have a
As
list
if
of
they're
red flags
talking
in
to more
mind.
than one people.
Oof, oh my gosh.
Literally just talking about it.
Holy
Like,
moly. Dude, that has happened to me before. Oh my gosh. And
I'm
yeah.
just like a big on that. Like, if you can't like just take the
Mm-hmm.
moments to, if you can't just get to know me for me
Yeah.
without like having to get to know
Multiple people,
Susan,
literally.
Abby, Veronica,
The
like
whole
all of these
table.
people, like how can I know that you're gonna be serious later
And
on?
faithful. Like, yeah. That just seems, I don't know, what's the word? Like, one, immature. Like, if you have to have so many women to be,
Hmm.
like, that's just immature. I would say all
I would
my
definitely
just went out
say
my
like
head.
be careful for people who are manipulative.
That one too.
Like if they're
Yeah.
saying things like you would do it if you love
Uh
me.
huh.
If you love me, you say
Mm-hmm.
you love me, but you're not doing this. Like that should not
Yeah.
be coming out of that person's mouth at all. That's not true love.
Uh
That's
huh.
not anything. Like love should be
Uh huh.
unconditional. It shouldn't have conditions.
And the manipulation doesn't just end with like men who are not of God. It can be good Christian men
Yeah.
too that you feel are of God. I'm not saying they're not of God, but I mean they probably still have a lot of healing to do and work to do as
Yeah.
well. Men of God can be men of
Yeah.
God and still have big areas of their life that they need to work on. And
Yeah.
so just because he is in the church, he's reading his Bible, you know what I'm saying? That
For
doesn't just
sure.
give you the green flag. Like you still have
Yeah.
things that you need to look for, as a
Yeah.
red flag. And so manipulation, I would say for sure is.
Yeah, and I mean like
Mm-hmm.
we're all gonna be like I don't want to say like if he manipulates you one time, like I
Mm-hmm.
can't say that because like I've manipulated my husband before, like but like to the fact where it's like all the time,
Yeah.
like joking around. Well, if you love me, you go give me Dr. Pepper.
Right.
Like not that, but
Uh-huh.
when it becomes self-centered in a
Mm-hmm.
way that's like, well, if you don't give me this, if you don't have a certain relationship with me, then you don't really love me. If you can't
Right.
give me what I want, if you're not going to talk to me at 3 a.m. in the morning, and what are you talking about at 3 a.m. in the
Right.
morning, then you don't love me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no. And that starts to become a personal conviction. Like, if you see things and you're like, well, he may not be trying to manipulate me, but if it's a constant, like, conversation and like, hey, I don't like when you do this, I don't like when
Mm-hmm.
you do this, and nothing has changed, that at that point should be like, oh,
Right.
does he really truly love me to say that in the way that he's saying that he does?
Mm-hmm.
Because if he did, he would realize this is my personal conviction and I'm not okay with it, and he should understand that.
For sure. I think another one would be like insecurity. I know that's like when you mean like insecurity as in just for example, maybe insecure with himself in a sense of he's really I guess territorial over you in a sense and he's not very willing to just be explain this like
Yeah, it's
having guy
hard.
friends as a like you know what I mean
Yeah,
insecurity is it's like it's a small one that can lead to a bigger issue because it
yeah.
trust it comes with that it's just
I feel like to add to that, kind
mm-hmm,
of, I have guy friends, but I have like
mm-hmm,
personal convictions with my rules with my guy friends. Like,
word
you're not gonna see me hugging my guy friend.
Right. Uh-huh.
Like, I don't really hug my guy
Uh-huh.
friends. Like, I don't. And if I was, it would have been a side hug. It would
Yeah.
never be a frontal hug.
Uh-huh.
More so, it's probably like a fist bump or a high five or like something like that. Now, if there's something going on where like an emergency's happening, or something like that, and they're caring for you in a sense of like, oh, I'm sorry, that's a different story. But you're not gonna see me hugging up on my guy friends, and I don't really text or call my guy friends either. A lot of my guy friends are church members. Literally, our worship pastor is living with us right now. But like, you're not gonna look at me and that person's text messages and us be texting 24/7. No, like, we may send like funny like worship reels or like video ideas. What we talk about a lot is songs. You'll see song suggestions like crazy, but like, you're not gonna see me talking to that person 24/7. Or like, so like with me, like, I have certain rules when it comes to stuff like that. Like, I have guy friends, and I've also like expressed how I feel about my husband and friends that are girls. It goes
both ways, yeah.
Like, so, and that's something that you should talk about in the stage of dating.
For sure.
Because there was like times where like I was like, hey Kyle, you know, the way that you're acting towards this person, I'm not saying that it's a big deal. I'm just saying like it just doesn't sit right with me, and I would appreciate it if we can talk about this and figure out like what's a better situation. For like, to sit down and have that conversation, and then him to be like, yeah, I understand what you're like. I understand where you're coming from. Like, I could see how that could be maybe upsetting or maybe kind of like give weird vibes. Yeah. So like, to have those conversations. Like, if he can't have that conversation with you, that's a red flag as well. Like, on top of that, like, if you can't sit down and be like, hey, can we talk about this? For sure. Like, that's a red flag. I feel like if he's like really controlling. But I do understand that. Like, I do understand, like, okay, you can't even look in that direction. Right. You can't even. Or if a guy like opens, like, some random guy, this happens a lot, opens the door for you. Like, like, and him be like, why did you do that? Did you give him a look? Like, I can understand that. Yeah, definitely no. No. I think to go with that, just like, more so for me, it's like the controllingness of it. Like, yeah, it's insecurity, but at the same time, it's like he's trying to control. Like, yes, the man should be the head and all of that, but it's not. He's not supposed to control his wife or spouse or anything like that. We should already just have reverence for him because we respect him, you know. Yeah. But if it's not there, then if it's coming out of a sense of just controlling this, then we're not going to respect that in a sense, you know. And so, like, trying to control who your friends are or like who your guy friends are in general, like, just all of that together, and not just for girls like seeking guys, but for guys who are like dating as well. I feel like those go hand in hand. Like, those are red flags you can find in women as well. So yeah, that was something like, kind of like talking about this, like, that was something that I definitely had to get over. I've talked about this with a lot of people, but I definitely, something that I've struggled with relationship wise, and even like with my husband, is jealousy. Like, I am like, I used to be very like, why are you laughing so hard with her? Like, what's so funny?
I like to laugh.
Like, she's so funny. No. Why are you laughing so hard? And so like, that was like, I did a I took a counseling class at my college, and it was like, you had to do like, come up with a personal conviction that you are something, that a sin that you are dealing with, and you have to come up with a plan, like as if you were counseling someone with that. Like, you come up with a plan, like, okay, well, try doing this, try reading your Bible, try like talking to a friend, having accountability partners. Mine was jealousy, straight jealousy. Like, I was, nope, I couldn't do it at the time, and a lot of people I don't think would know that. It's very like a self, like, I'm not very like outwardly when it comes to stuff like that, but like, even in that class, he was like, well, if person A, if this man was having an affair with his wife, you don't want your wife to be your accountability partner, because it's going to be like blown up, like, because the women's going to think of it like, oh my gosh, like, there would no be like true problem solving, because the woman's always going to be like, you did this to me, you did this to me, like I will never forget, you know.
Right. Mhm.
And I thought, and I was like, when I heard that, I was like, really? Like for you, like to just say like, oh my gosh, yeah, I had an affair, and I was like, no, I'm sorry. I don't really know if this is making sense, but I
Mhm.
was just, like very big on jealousy at that time, and it's
Yeah.
taken a lot. You definitely have to understand the person you're with in that sense and have those conversations as well,
Uh-huh.
because girls see things differently than guys do.
For sure. 100%. Would you say that I feel as if women are more in tune with like their emotions, but not in like a emotional like crybaby way, but in a empathetic. We are
Mhm.
able to put ourselves in other people's shoes and like feel what they are going through and relate and try and emote. And we are comforters, you know,
Yeah,
nourishers.
women definitely like think more emotionally,
Mhm.
whereas men think more logically.
Mhm.
Like if there's a problem with two men, they're just gonna fight and be fine after. Like it's
Right.
not gonna be like this long drawn out, be petty type thing. And us women are we like, and not even in a bad way, but like it. That's the more understanding way.
Yeah.
Is like they need to get what they think out, and they're
For
done.
sure.
Whereas us, like we think with our emotions, we're constantly overthinking things. We're all
Mhm.
constantly in the back of our mind. Oh, what about this? What about this? Did I say this wrong? Did I do this wrong? Like we constantly think with our emotions, and I think that that's a very big thing
For
to
sure.
understand. And
Mhm.
I feel like for girls, it is a harder thing to like digest about. Okay, well he's mine. Yes, you're dating that, and he's not yours until you got a ring on the finger.
Facts.
Um, and so which is kind of is. I mean, it is, but it isn't. Like, there's
Uh-huh.
loyalty behind it.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you want to be with someone who's not cheating on you. Like,
Mhm.
but like that person is God's son or God's daughter in that sense. Like that person's not yours.
Mhm.
I feel like until there's a
For
ceremony,
sure. Like that
God's
ring.
covenant, like, and so I just feel like there's just so many things to talk about. Like, you should definitely. Something that my mom growing up always told me was like, you need to make a list of like all your characteristics and like a
Uh-huh.
guy that you want, you
Yeah.
know? Like tall. Like for me, like I definitely said tall. And my husband
You got
is way
that.
tall.
Yeah.
God sprinkled a little bit
No,
more
God
in
said
that bowl.
that.
But like tall, I really liked dark features.
Mhm.
So like dark hair, um, dark eyes, stuff like that. And like another one, like there were just like certain things like you just for your whole life just like constantly like just write out and pray over that list, pray over it, pray over it, pray
Mhm.
over it. And
Oh.
like I ended up doing that, and but one of my biggest things was like I don't want to have to force my husband to wake up on a Sunday morning and be
Yeah.
like, we have, can we please go to church,
Uh-huh.
can we please go to church, can you please wake up and go get the like. No, I didn't. That was something on my checklist that I was like, nope.
Mhm.
I wanted someone who was like my dad in a sense of we're going to be at church, we're going to be faithfully serving, we're going to be at anything that the church is going on, we're going to be there, we're going to help anybody in need at our church,
Yeah.
like, you know, have someone who was just like craving that one-on-one connection with Christ. And I feel like that's such a good thing to be able to say, well, this is what I want in a guy. I want someone who's loyal.
Mhm.
I want someone who's going to be honest.
Yeah.
I want someone who can sit down and have a conversation in a sense of, well, maybe you're feeling this, but I'm not feeling this.
Mhm.
What can we do to have middle ground here? And so I think that's just as important is like really take like in your moments of singleness, like pray over the person that you think,
For
you
sure.
know.
Pray for them too.
Yeah.
Like just be like, hey God, you know, I just want to take this moment, pray for my future husband. Pray he's doing well. I pray that he loves you, has a great relationship with you, and is just working
Yeah.
on building it, making it stronger. Like be specific, be intentional, and I think prayer is such a good resource that we all need to utilize a little more, a lot more.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's so good. There's been like times, and not even relationship wise, but I've had to pray like for friends in my life, and just like not personality wise, just the way like treatment of others wise, and I would really see God, like after I'd pray, I'd really see God working in their lives, like doing those things. And I'm just like, wow, like
Yeah.
all it took, was just coming to him and saying like, hey God, I'm having this problem, like,
Yeah.
can you help me? And he will. So I love prayer for real.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a good resource. Just
Yeah.
talking to God.
Yeah. Agreed.
I guess now we could talk about marriage, and this is gonna be Deanna's topic because obviously I'm not married, so I ain't got no experience with that.
Where to begin? I'm just kidding. I don't know where to begin actually.
You get to go with like the transition from like being engaged to being married. Like what was like a difference that you noticed right off the bat when you were like, wow, I'm married right now, like I'm not single.
I would definitely say like even like the process between it. Actually, I'll start when we were dating, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So me and Kyle, when we were dating, we had like our first. It wasn't like our first date. It was just like we're gonna go eat, like go to Sonic and hang out together, type thing. Like I didn't know really it was a date. I just thought that like, but I was nervous.
Yeah.
Like I was nervous. Like I had never been on a one-on-one date in high school. Like I talked to guys out of school, like I talked about in the podcast, but like I wasn't allowed to date. I wasn't allowed to go on one-on-one dates somewhere, and so I was nervous. Like I had never been like at a restaurant with a guy by myself before, and much less on like it wasn't really a restaurant, but I was nervous, and we like hang out, we talk forever, like 3 hours. We're sitting at this Sonic drive-in, talking about like ministry, talking about that was another thing that blew my mind.
Aww,
was like being able just to like talk about like ministry and like what your ministry goals are, like what in ministry do you want to do growing up, like what do you want to do when you get out of here, and talking about worship songs, like being able to sing together, like that was so cool, like to be able to like. And like for I don't know if some of you know, but like my husband may not be the best singer, but like not you like affirming it.
Agree.
But like being able to sit with a guy and like hear him love to worship, like it was just like I know that sounds cheesy. I'm sorry.
No, it's literally
but like
the best.
Going for someone, going from people who are like, yeah, I love God, I believe in God, right, to like
I have a Bible,
literally like loving worship, and you can tell in their presence. You can just tell like when they're worshiping God, they're really worshiping God, and like we like worship God. Like we were listening to worship songs, we were singing in the car, and I was just like, this is so different. I know what my dad's been talking about this whole time now. It's clicking, like, and we were sitting there and we were just talking, and then later on down the road, I didn't know this, but later on, a couple months down the road, he was like, yeah, I knew from that night that we were getting married.
Oh my
like,
god.
That you were my person from that night.
You're kidding.
And like we were talking like just friends talking, like for like 4 weeks, because he had gotten to school later.
Yeah.
And I was like, over here talking about like getting married after a month, 2 months of dating, and I'm like, what if you're psycho?
Stop.
No.
That is so just
and I feel so bad saying that, but like that's what I thought. Like I love Criminal Minds, and I'm like, you can easily be faking it right now.
Stop.
And I get married, and I don't believe really in divorce. I believe that there's maybe like certain reasons for it, but like if I'm getting married to you, I can't leave. Like, and so like I'm gonna need time to like really get to know you, and like know your mannerisms, and like know what you love and what you hate, and what you enjoy doing, what you don't enjoy doing, and like I need time for that. And he's like, no, let's get married now. And I'm like, no.
Holy moly. But see, like it goes back to that a man who finds a wife finds a good. He knew, like that is crazy. I love that.
And so from going from that to being engaged, like I told Kyle a year. Like I literally gave him a year. I was like, after a year, we can talk about getting married. Like we can talk about mentally. I was there before a year. Like 6 months, 7 months, 8 months came around, and I was like, I'm ready. But like on our 1 year anniversary, this man like proposed to me on our 1 year. He was like, no more time. Let's go. Let's get this,
time's up.
Let's get this rolling.
Yo.
And like, and something that's important too is that like the person that you're with, like, make sure they listen to you, because like my biggest wish, like, my family lived 12 hours with driving, stops, gas, all together from where we went to college, and his parents lived about 8, 9, 10 hours, depending on how frequent you stop and how you don't. And my biggest wish was that both of our families were there to witness it.
Yeah.
Both of our parents, full-time ministry, pastors, like, have responsibilities of the church, and so for them to like drop everything and drive up and then drive back down before Sunday service, like, that's unrealistic in a sense, but they made it happen. They were very tired, but like, I was saying those things from the beginning, and like, he like made it a point, like, to sit there and be like, yeah, I like, this is her one wish, and I want her one wish to be like granted, you know?
I love that.
And it was so cool to be able to see those things. And so from going from like that to constantly growing, like, I constantly knew that he was gonna, like, he was my one and done type thing. Like, he was, the more and more I hung out with him, the more time I didn't, like, he was becoming my best friend, and like, I wanted to spend more time with him.
Yeah.
I love doing ministry. We went to the same local church, so we were part of our youth ministry. We were part of the young adults ministry. I loved doing ministry with him. And and so that was very, very big for me, like, being able to do that. He talked to my dad. He has my dad's permission. That was a very big thing. He had to ask my dad's permission to take me on a date.
Oh my gosh.
Because that was something I've just grown up with, and like, my dad's a very good, like, see, my people picker was wrong growing up, and my dad's was like perfect. Like, he knew like what to look out for and what to not, and I was like, if he can talk to my dad, and my dad not even have met him like in person, but talk on the phone, like, then I know that I'm okay. Like, you know, like, I know that my dad always has best interests, and I'm not thinking really with my head up here, like, I really want to be in a relationship, and I'm really like, that's really at that point driving that, and I'm like, I want to have a logical thinking behind this, not just an emotional thinking. Word. And so what's the saying? What am I trying to say? If he wanted to, he would. Yeah. Is that the saying? That's it. Like, if he wanted to, he would. Like, and Kyle literally called my dad and was on the phone with him for like an hour and a half.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I love every bit of this. I love this.
And because that was my stipulation. I was like, if we're gonna have a relationship, like, you have to talk to my dad first.
Don't settle.
And he did, and he talked to him for an hour. Now, they didn't talk about me for the whole hour. They talked about church. They talked about ministry, like, but like, it was the fact that he was like intentional. And he was like, okay, I'll call him. Give me his number. And and he asked for my permission, my hand in marriage, and he also did it the night before Easter Sunday. Wow. So, like, any advice, don't do it the night before Easter Sunday, because that was not a good time.
Kind of chaotic.
Midnight for a pastor. Like, Easter's like Super Bowl for pastors, and so that's
for sure.
But, and my dad's one stipulation was like, I had to finish school.
Word.
If I got married before I graduated, I had to finish school. And he made sure of that. Kyle was like, you're getting on track. You're gonna see how many, like, you're gonna finish school, because I made a deal with your dad. I made a promise with your dad, and I'm gonna keep it.
Oh my goodness.
And so it's just everything going from someone who's like, yeah, I love God, to like, it was just such a like difference.
I could be wrong, but any story that I've heard that's like as sweet as that one, and it's like God's timing for sure, that like it can't be anything else, I feel like it's the guy who has always known, like, from the start, like, okay, yeah, Jesus. And they might not say it at first.
Oh yeah,
but
no.
I feel like, I could be wrong, I just feel like the guy is always like, he knows when he finds his wife. He just knows, and that, like, I can't stop cheesing. That is so sweet. Like, like I don't have words for that. It's just like that is so sweet, and one day I do hope that God blesses me with that because
Yeah.
that's utter. Just I can't even. That's so sweet.
Oh, thank you.
That's literally
Yeah.
that's crazy.
And like something that I think is just as important, like when you do get engaged,
Mm-hmm.
like there needs to be conversations like we went to premarital counseling. Like we went to our one of our counselors at our local church up in Springfield did it, and we went through a book, we went through a video series, and it was very, I don't want to say like exposing, it was very personal in the sense of like the questions that we had to ask each other.
Mm-hmm.
um like how would you raise your kids?
Oh yeah,
Like, and
that's
have you
a
ever
good
been with
yeah.
anyone sexually before?
Uh huh.
Because that's a big thing.
For
That is a
sure.
very big thing,
Uh huh.
especially if you have one person who has been saving
Uh
themselves for
huh.
marriage and one person who just happened to fall maybe once or
Uh
twice,
huh.
and like it's like comparison wise we overthink things in our mind as humans, and like
Yeah,
comparison can be such a killer
for
sometimes.
sure.
And so like that's
Y'all
something
did
to
this like
know.
in like marriage like counseling.
Yeah, so
Uh
like
huh.
premarital counseling is like going in, like talking about, okay, what's the stipulation, not stipulations, but what are you agreeing to?
Uh
And you're
huh.
agreeing to having and being a part of God's covenant.
Uh
Like
huh.
this is a covenant you're making in front of God, in front of your friends, in front of your family. Like this is not just like a we're signing a piece of paper, which is what marriage I feel like is really turning
Uh
into in our
huh.
generation. Is like, oh, it's just a piece of paper.
Right.
No, it's not just a piece of paper. Like you're going through some of your hardest moments in life with this person, but also the greatest like the greatest moments of your life. But it's not just even that. It's like
Uh
it's
huh.
in front of God. And God
Talk
literally
about that. Literally,
God
marriage is
talks
from
about,
God.
yeah.
Like, come on.
And he talks about like in some of the Bible verses, and we're gonna read some Bible verses, we
For
have some,
sure.
but it talks about the relationship with Christ and the church.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times when Christ and the church are referenced, it's talking about marriage in a sense. Like your husband should love you as Christ loves the church.
Mm-hmm.
And you should submit, wives should submit to their husband. And submitting is a very big thing to talk about. I'm still very newly married, so like I'm still learning how to do that biblically. But like it is a covenant from God. It is such a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's not something that's just like, yeah, it's whatever.
Right. It's
Like if
not
we
something
end
to
it, we
do
end
for
it.
fun. Like, it's
No.
literally from God.
Yeah.
Like, it's a man.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like when you put it in that perspective, it makes you not like me. I've always wanted to get married. Like since I watched those High School Musical like movies, I've always just had it in my mind like I'm gonna get married. I'm gonna have a big like white pretty dress. It's not even about that. Like
No.
it's not about that at all. It's that covenant between God and Him joining two people as one to do His work. Like
Yeah.
that's such a big deal, and it's not
Yeah.
talked about enough. People just want to get married for the aesthetic, for the ring, for the wedding. It's so much bigger
Yeah.
than that, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like and that's why we like did marriage counseling, because you have to know they ask questions, and like what are some stipulations that you want in your marriage,
Mm-hmm.
expectations you want in your marriage, like, and what expectations I want. And that's the moment to do it,
Uh-huh.
because you're not married at that time, you're engaged.
Word.
Like that's the time to really like dive deep into y'all's relationship and
Yeah.
see if there is a middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
And like I told my kids, I mean, I told Kyle, my kids are going to be disciplined. Like
Yeah.
my kids are not going to be running around acting like fools. Like,
Mm-hmm.
nope.
Here.
And it's biblical. Like,
Those who
and
spare the rod do not love their children,
yeah,
but those who do will discipline them.
yeah. And so that was something we had to talk about. We had to talk about past relationships, and we had to talk about things like temptations in those past relationships.
Uh-huh.
We had to talk about serving wise. Like, are you just wanting to be a faithful member of a church, or do you want to be a serving member of your church?
Yeah.
Like, and some people, their ministry is a secular ministry. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
you are working at, I don't know, a financial business, like, and you're not serving full time in your church, like, but you're using that to
Mm-hmm.
reach people and to tell people about the gospel, that's your ministry.
Word.
But like that's also a big thing to talk about. Like
Mm-hmm.
full-time ministry is a very constantly ongoing thing, and so you
Yeah.
kind of have to be on the same page with that and wanting the same thing. But it's so important.
Yeah.
Premarital counseling is so important. I feel like we talked a lot on things that we were going to do in our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just went through it. It was the best thing. We read a book. It's called Catching Foxes because I don't remember where in the Bible, but it says like you don't want a fox. Like a fox is very sneaky.
Yeah.
It's very sneaky, and in your vineyard, you don't want a fox just like sneaking around and
Uh-huh.
eating the fruits. Like you want to catch them and like get rid of them. That's why it's
Uh-huh.
called catching foxes, is because like you want to catch those things that could possibly be an issue later in your marriage.
Yeah.
Catch them now, talk about them now, be aware of them now, and fix them and go through with them and find a middle ground. That way your marriage will prosper later on.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very very important. I feel like if you're getting married you need to take premarital counseling. Like I feel like
Word.
it's a need, not like a if you want to you
Uh-huh.
can. Like I feel like it does so much good and you learn so much more about the person.
Mm-hmm.
Like me and Kyle were only dating a year into oh yeah, we were only dating a year and then we got engaged. And so like you can only know so much about a person within a year.
Mm-hmm.
But like those questions, but sometimes you don't know the questions to ask to get to know, and
Yeah.
those questions are there, and I feel like it's very
I
important.
love that, dude. That's so awesome. What the heck?
Yeah, and I
Mm.
would say like marriage, like it's definitely a learning curve. Like yeah, that's all I can say because you go from doing your own thing, like constantly doing your own thing. Like I was always worried about me in a sense, like where do I need to do, what do I need to do, where do I need to go, and marriage is such it is a blessing, and I love my marriage, love Kyle, love that I'm married to him, but like at the beginning it was hard, like
Mm-hmm.
especially as a wife because like I went from taking care of myself to now trying to take care of two people,
Yeah.
and like never, and being young and being able to like I have to not just fold my clothes.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. Like I'm not even kidding. That was a big thing when me and Kyle first got married because
Uh-huh.
like I fold my clothes and do my laundry completely different than the way that he's grown up with doing
Uh-huh.
his clothes and his laundry.
Yeah.
And like it would like get he'd be like, that's not how it goes. And I'm like,
Oh
they're folded.
my gosh. What are you talking about?
But that's not how it goes. I'm like, it's literally folded for you. Like, and it's just like those little things, like the
Being
little things that
picky.
you have to get used to. Like that's just one of the things, and like he
That's
knows that
hilarious.
we've worked through that.
Y'all met in
but
the middle.
but I feel like it's definitely important,
Mm-hmm.
like to really learn how to be with your person. Like I'm still very July is our 2 year anniversary, so like still very new to
Holy
this.
moly. That
Still
is
very new to
crazy.
this. But submitting, I feel
Yeah.
like as women can be, especially in women in our society today.
Uh-huh.
Like for those who sat there and spoke up and said women can work, why? Why did you speak up?
I need names.
I get abused at work. I don't want to go
Names,
to work.
please.
I want to be able to stay at home. But
Word. I'll do the cooking, the cleaning, like what do you need?
but I feel like our generation, our society looks so like down on submission. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and
For sure.
submission is like you really have to understand it. You really have to realize, and your partner and your spouse have to realize it's
Uh-huh.
not a control thing.
And it's not you being weak either, and like not
No.
being able to make your own decisions.
If
It's
anything, I
trusting.
think it's stronger because you're literally
Exactly.
putting your
Uh-huh.
life in somebody. Like you trust somebody
Uh-huh.
so much
Literally.
that you're like, okay, I know that you're what. And wait, also to that, sorry, because I'm like
No,
thinking
yeah.
your submission isn't to your boyfriend.
Oh, facts.
Your
No.
submission isn't to your
Uh-huh.
fiance. Like, yeah,
Not
you
not the
can
person
start.
you're talking
You
to.
can start like somewhat
Uh-huh.
getting to a heart and a realization. Like, yes, we're fixing to be married.
Uh-huh.
So like I need to start understanding. But if they're doing things like if they're like sitting there saying, well, you have to submit to me. No, you don't have to submit until you're like married. And And make sure who you're submitting to in your marriage. Like,
Mm-hmm.
make sure it's someone, like, you should be able to confidently submit to your husband because you know that your husband is in a constantly growing a horizontal, wait, no, that's vertical, a vertical relationship with God. Like, he needs to have his vertical relationship with God before he
Yes.
can have his horizontal to everyone around him.
Period.
Like, you should be so trusting in your husband for submission in that sense because you know that he is in a constant growing relationship with Christ.
Uh-huh.
And you know that he is asking you to do these things. He's asking to do this and he's loving you back. And that the way that works is because he understands it's God's thing. It's not his thing. It's not for self pleasure. It's not for controlling. It's not for that at all.
Word. I love
Like,
that. Yeah.
it is, and to a sense, like, you as a wife, you should want to almost.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, it should be fun for you to like just be able to listen and be a passenger princess, and like.
I wish I was passenger princess.
I don't like to drive.
My husband's
so
like, you can drive.
I hate driving, but no, like it should be. Essentially, it shouldn't have to be like a task that you feel forced to do. Like it should come easy to you if that is who God paired you to be with. And I don't know if it's coming exactly easy because I'm sure
it's
like
not
that
easy.
Argument before the folding the laundry. I'm sure
it's not easy. Okay, especially because like, yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy, but like it's. That should show you
a little. I don't know.
Well, yeah. Later on, I feel like once you get over the like, okay, well, I don't have to do this. I didn't have to do it. Like once you get over that.
Yeah, I told you I'm not married. I'm speaking from movies right now.
And I'm newly married, so there's still a little bit of like, you can't tell me what to do. Go fold your own laundry. I shouldn't say that, and I know that I should. Like, there's a knowledge behind it. Like I want to be the best. Like it's like the craving. Yes. Like I want to be the best wife I can be for him. Like I want him to constantly like know that his wife is gonna love him and he's gonna support is such a big thing in submission. It's not even just like you just support your husband.
And I'm sure like on his end, he is probably saying like I want to be a good leader for my wife. Like it's not one sided.
No.
I'm sure Kyle's doing everything he can to like, okay, like I need to make good decisions for my wife because it puts her like life in whatever's way. So it goes both ways,
Yeah.
Me speaking from my non-experience. I'm sure.
Hey, but I feel like it's such a common common sense thing, but it's so hard to like fleshly get over it, you know?
For sure.
And it's just a craving, but at the same time, it's like, well, in the moment when you're like that person's asking you, like, well, why don't you do it? And it's like for me, that's like what I have to get over. It's like,
so do you want it done that way? You do.
I understand that we're still married, like we're married now, but like, I don't know. I feel like submission's not only just about controlling. Yeah. Like when we decided to move here from the church we were at before, like I wasn't the biggest fan about it at the beginning. And I'm being open and honest about it. Like, I didn't want to move. We were only there for 6 months, and I'm like, I feel like we're leaving. Like, we just made a commitment, and now we're leaving. And my husband was like, I've prayed about it, and I really feel like God is calling us out there. And I'm like, I don't care in the sense. Like, in my own personal heart, I don't feel like we're getting called there. But I was thinking with emotions. I was thinking with not my head. I was thinking with my heart. And I feel like that's another way why the men are the head of the household, because it was a God thing, but yeah, I couldn't even see that because I was letting my own selfish
I love that
desires get in the way.
Raw confession. I love that.
But so I was through submission. I supported my husband in that decision, and I moved out here with him with a smooth transition. Like I didn't. There was like maybe one argument about it, and after that, I was like, you know what? I trust you. Like, this is my time to submit to you. Like, this is what I told you, that I would support you in anything. And now, like, is my chance to back up what I said. And, like, that's not just controlling. Like, that's simply saying, like, okay, you feel like this is the best move for our family, and you feel like this is what God is calling us to do. Now I need to understand and believe you as well,
Yeah.
you know?
I
And
love that.
so,
If you hadn't done that, we wouldn't have met. And this
yeah.
podcast would not be a
And you
thing.
know what? Like, I was seeing it selfishly,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, like, I realize it now, like, I wouldn't have any of my friends that I have now.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not gonna lie, like, there was some moments in where we were living at that was difficult.
Uh-huh.
Um, and like seeing myself then as to where I'm seeing myself
Yeah.
now, it's very different. And
Mm-hmm.
I loved being there. I truly believe God called us there for
Mm-hmm.
like, because we were doing ministry without both of our parents at the time. We were doing ministry full on
That's
our own.
crazy.
And so like we had a chance to really do ministry on our
Yeah.
own. And I feel like that was preparing us for here.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if I would have constantly were nagging about it, it would be a completely different story. Like if
Yeah.
I didn't have an open and honest view of moving here, like I feel like a lot of what we've done so far
Mm-hmm.
would not have happened.
I love that,
So,
dude. It's just like understanding roles, and just
yeah.
submitting to them. Like
Yeah.
one day that'll be me. One day. But it's also like we said, going even back to the single, it's like don't be yearning for that specifically. Yearn for
Yeah.
God first,
Yeah.
like focus on God first.
Yeah.
I feel like I had something to say and it slipped my mind. Oh, what was it? It was about okay, it was about relationships, dating, and like
Mhm.
all of it together. This is gonna sound really like dry and bland, but it's just like it's not that big a deal. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
your relationship's not the end of your world. It's not the beginning either. Like it's like not that big a deal if you think about it. We were
Yeah.
put here not to get married, not to be, and yes, those are good things, but we
Yeah.
were put here to essentially spread the gospel, spread
Yeah.
God's news, expand His kingdom,
Yeah.
and yes, some people are put here to be married and to, live a married life, but some people are put here to be Pauls and to be happy being
Yeah.
single, and to
Yeah.
do even more in their singleness because they have the time and they have the ability to do that without having to have someone else to carry with them,
Yeah.
So I would just think about it with an open mindset, like, some of us may not get married, some will, but it's not the end of the world either
Yeah.
way, and it's not the end of the world,
Yeah.
I don't think you should make
I
relationships
feel like
your
in
life.
even like high school relationships, like I look back and I remember my relationships then, and I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, this is never gonna end. Like this pain, this loneliness, like it's never gonna end. And when I got out of high school, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm still here. Like I'm still
alive.
I'm still like walking around. I'm still doing fine. And like don't take it too seriously because like high school is literally 4 years. Like I know it feels like a lifetime. I was there. I did not like high school at all. It felt
Now
like
it feels like
forever.
forever ago. Like
And it was it's 4 years. Like, and we try to tell, like, we talk to our youth girls a lot, like, don't just settle for the first guy that comes to you in those 4 years because you don't know really what they're looking for.
Intentions.
Yeah, their intentions, their motives, like you don't know. And I just feel like it's really important and something like a big question. And I was telling one of our youth girls this last night. I was like, does he love Jesus? And she's like, well, I think so. And I was like, well, I think that's a really good question to start off with when talking about having a relationship with this person because that's like you're a believer.
Yeah.
And there's going to be temptations. And if that other person doesn't believe the same thing and doesn't really want to grow in a relationship with Christ, then he's not going to understand your personal convictions and what you believe is a sin and what's not a sin if he doesn't really care about that. And so I feel like that's such a big question. And if not only does he love Jesus, is he like living for Jesus or he's just saying that he loves Jesus?
Right, yeah.
So I feel like those can be two different people.
For sure. And sometimes like you need to pray for discernment because some people are really good liars. Like
yes.
Some people are natural, skilled, talented liars. So pray for discernment for sure so that you're really able to see people for who they are,
And some people can just be okay with accepting Jesus the one time. Like, like I'm not saying that you can only be saved one time, but like not the growing part of it. Like they're okay with just being like, yeah, I trust in God. Right. Like they could be okay with that. And you may not be okay with that. And like that's something that you need to talk about too before being in a relationship and even a marriage. Like I feel like that's such a big deal.
Yeah.
because I feel like you constantly are growing in your life anyways. Like you're constantly getting to know new things about you, about your person, and you're constantly growing in your relationship with God. And I feel like if they're not growing, if they're not choosing not to grow into that relationship, I feel like that can cause really big tension in that.
For sure. Equally yoked. Like, make sure y'all are on the same page, and that he loves Jesus and God.
Yeah.
I agree. I think we should read some of our scriptures that we had picked out. I'm
gonna get a drink real quick.
Oh, yeah, let's see. My grandma, when I used to go to church with her, she'd always have candy in her purse, and she gave me some one time. It's been in here for a while. I won't eat it right now. All right, let's see.
Not me like trying to lean over this. Get my Bible.
So I've got what part do you have?
I have all of them.
I'm in Ephesians right now.
Then you do Ephesians.
All right, I'll do the talking about wives submitting to their husband. Basically, what we just wrapped up saying. So this is Ephesians 5, starting at verse 22, and it says, "Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands, as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives submit to their husbands in everything." You want to read the husband's part?
Yeah, but you like kind of like talking about before, like how marriage is often referenced as Christ in the church. Like literally, this passage is like talking about it right now. Verse 25, it says, "Husbands, love your wives." Also, we're in different translations, so it may not sound the same. "Husband, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her, to make her holy, cleansing her with the washing of the water by the word. He did this to present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or anything like that, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands are to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one ever hates his own flesh, but provides and cares for it, just as Christ does with the church, again, since we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This mystery is profound, but I am talking about Christ and the church. To sum up, each one of you is to love his wife as himself, and the wife is to respect her husband. Period.
RESPCT.
Oh, yeah!
But no, yeah, that's basically what we were just talking about. Wives submitting to your husbands, and how our husbands do love us, and they are to be the head of the household and head of us. So I love that.
Yeah, and I love how it literally like talks about like Christ really died for the church. And so in the sense of like putting what this passage is saying, like your husband should love you so much that he's willing to lay his life down for you. And he's able, it literally says right here, for no one ever hates his own flesh, but provides and cares for it. Like, you should want someone who provides and cares for you, in a sense of like not looking at him like, well, I can provide and care for myself. Like, it needs to be in a sense of submission. Like, it doesn't say that this person needs to be doing this or this person needs to be. It literally says like the husband is supposed to provide and care for you, just as Christ provided and cared for the church.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much.
Jesse's like, I want my turn.
One day, y'all. One day. But I'm not rushing it. I'm not.
Don't.
Like, I am patient. I am long suffering.
I can tell you right now, like, I remember my freshman year of singleness. I remember how much, like, I'm not saying I didn't have fun after.
Yeah.
But, like, learning myself.
That.
Was so, like, I remember, like, I just look back and I see the personal growth. And I'm like, I was able to hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
At any time. There was no drama. There wasn't, not saying that there was after, but I'm just saying, like, a lot of people, like, think when you get in a relationship, you leave your friends. Right. It was, like, a year for me to be me and to grow in Christ. And I loved it. I loved every bit of it.
I'm telling you, like, there is happiness and joy in singleness. I promise you. It is not, every day I'm so lonely. It's really not like that. Like, once you get over that satisfying need that you just have to have these desires, once you get over that and truly just start focusing on yourself and God, it's so enjoyable to get to know yourself and, like,
for sure,
do, like, know things that you never really noticed before about yourself. Like, oh, I didn't realize I like this thing, or I'm not a fan of this. Like,
Yeah.
It's actually so more self-satisfying, I feel like, than trying to chase after other desires. Like, I love that you had a season like that too before you got like
Oh yeah.
it's amazing, honestly. It's a blessing for sure.
Yeah.
But I will still talk about being married like I want it right now. Like, don't get me wrong, I will still be like, oh, I can't. It's just fun, you
And but
know?
that's like in the sense that's okay. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
okay to like desire
For
like such a
sure.
godly relationship and such a like it is a God. It's a covenant before God. Like and
Mm-hmm.
to desire that like
Just
that's
don't
okay. Just
desire
don't
it
let
more
it
than
control your
God,
life.
for
Like
sure. Mm-hmm.
it's okay to like have goals and ambitions about
Yeah.
it, but like just don't let it take over.
I was literally reading. I was going through all my pictures trying to clear up storage on my phone because I had too much. And I saw something from like my 1 year of college I was in. It was like this sociology class, and it was saying, describe like what you would want in your future. And this was a time that I was not really even close to God, but
Yeah.
I was like, I hope for my family to be a God fearing, hardworking family. And I was like,
Hmm.
I wrote that like that many, I wanted that many years ago. It was just funny to see, like, wow, God is always with you.
Yeah.
Even like when you're not focused on Him the most, He's right there, man. Because for me to write that and not even, it shows just like still the reverence that I have to want that in a family, to want a God fearing family, like to
Yeah.
keep Him at the forefront. So I thought that was funny. I was like, I wrote that when I was going through doing those things, but
Yeah.
yeah, more.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out which one I want to do. Because I have two, but I think I just lost the other one. I'm not even gonna lie. My little bookmark fell out of it.
Dude.
But I kind of wanted to talk to in the sense of I don't know how long we're talking, but I wanted to like hit on it because I feel like it's very important.
Yeah.
Like lust is such a big thing.
We
Like
didn't
in
talk
our
about. We should have talked about this in singleness. We should at the beginning.
yeah.
But
Well,
hey,
it can
now
be
let's
in
add it
both.
in.
Like
Come
it
on.
can be in dating. It can be like
That's so true.
and I feel like you should always really focus on what you're wanting and
Uh-huh.
the reason why you're wanting it.
Intentions.
Like yes, intentions. And like there's a passage the Bible talks so much about sexual immorality and
Uh-huh.
it talks about lust and it talks
Dude,
about temptation. It's
we
all
completely
over.
skipped all over these things. What are we doing?
We just got excited,
Well,
you
yeah,
know?
for sure.
It's okay. We're getting to it. I
We
mean,
are.
it
That's
applies to all
true.
stages of life.
Mm-hmm.
So, um like Proverbs 5, it says should I read the whole thing? No,
Go
I'm not
ahead.
going to read the whole thing. Um, but it says, "My son, pay attention to my wisdom. Listen closely to my understanding, so that you may maintain discretion and your lips safeguard knowledge. Though the lips of the forbidden woman drip honey, and her words are smoother than oil, in the end she's as bitter as wormwood, and as sharp as a double-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps straight, head straight for the grave. She doesn't consider the path of life. She doesn't know that her ways are unstable. So now, sons, listen to me. Don't turn away from the words from my mouth. Keep your way far from her. Do not go near the door of her house." Like, it literally says on here, it's giving us advice for
Mm-hmm.
temptation. Like, it's literally giving us, like, for men, and it's not just like
Mm-hmm.
women who are lusting after it, like, or not just men lusting after women. It's women who are doing the same thing to
For
men,
sure.
and like you really need to be careful about who you're surrounding yourself with, who you're possibly looking into a relationship with, because it literally says here, like it it says, "Listen closely to my understanding, so you may maintain discretion." It says she is as sharp as a double-edged sword. Her words are smoother than oil. Like,
Mm-hmm. I feel like to put it in like our time, this doesn't necessarily have to do with like words, but like actions, like thirst traps. Like you see a girl
yeah,
just posting thirst traps and like maybe seductive pictures. That's probably not the one
yeah,
you want to go after, and vice
yeah,
versa for men as well. Like people take like shirtless pics and like the intention behind it as well.
yeah,
It's those things that you want to look for, and
yeah,
words as well. Like the smooth as honey speaker. She's really like seductive when she
Yeah.
speaks, and seducing in a way. It's Those are the things, the red
Yeah.
flags to observe.
Yeah, and I feel like there's like a bunch of other like passages in scripture. I really challenge you. I know Destiny will probably challenge you to like do your own reading and your
We
own research
should.
on it, because that's
Hmm.
how you grow. That's how you're able to get to know
Hmm.
the basis of your relationship with Christ and how you can learn what his word says.
For sure.
But I feel
It's
like,
personal, for
yeah,
sure. It's
I feel
different
like
for
there's so many
everyone.
things that go with lust, because not only are you in charge of what your eyes look at and what your heart longs
Uh
for, but you're
huh.
also control of how people see you and present yourself. I feel like, I know we're kind of like jumping in the deep end at this point,
Come on.
but like modesty, I feel like is such a big
Uh
thing
huh.
for women. And today, like in today's world, I'm like, I feel like we can't even go to the mall, and I'm like constantly like telling Kyle, like not in a bad way, like
Hmm.
more of a like a warning, like
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
don't look over there, like
Right.
because I don't want him to stumble and fall.
I
Like
feel you.
I don't want
That
to like
one. Uh huh.
cause like even issues, in that
Yeah.
sense. Like I'm gonna be like, hey, don't look over there, keep your head
Hmm.
down, like because
There's
you can't
yeah.
even walk in, and it's like kids who are in like elementary school.
I work at the mall, and I can't tell you
Yeah.
the amount of times I've seen cheeks just out on display for everyone to see walking through. But like, not like, to put it literally, it's very in your face all the time.
Yeah.
It's not dramatic like the world we live in. It's very popular to expose yourself. The more skin, the better is basically how
Yeah.
our society is right
And like
now.
don't like and be mindful of that. Like I used to think like modesty, like my dad and my mom used to like talk about all the time,
Uh
and I'm like,
huh.
oh my gosh, I just want to wear some shorts. But like I really understand it now, and
Hmm.
I've really gone, like when me and Kyle got married, like I really tried my best to like start shifting
Yeah.
the way that I dress.
Hmm.
Like I yes, you want to look cute.
For sure.
Yes, you want to be part of the trends, like, but at the same time, like you can do it in a way that's not revealing
Hmm.
at
There's
all.
a verse in the Bible, and I can't remember where it is, but it's like we need to be careful of what we do so that we don't make other believers stumble and fall.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is, but I'll put it up here
Yeah.
and like read it for yourself as well, for sure.
Yeah.
But no, we have to be mindful of what we do as
Yeah.
well, because it does affect others, and maybe people who are not as strong, and yeah,
Or
not to
even
say
like
that we're the
new
strongest, but
believers, like,
exactly, yeah, who don't know better.
yeah.
It's we have to be mindful and intentional about what we do, and
Yeah.
it's not a stipulation of rules, but it's just out of reverence and respect for God, you
Yeah,
know.
because we are an image of God. Like it
Hmm.
literally says that we were created in their image. Like the created in God, Christ, the Holy Spirit, like they live inside of us, and we're supposed to be showing that
Hmm.
and doing that in a sense of dressing the way that you're dressing and making, let's talk about girls for a second.
Hmm.
Me dressing the way I'm dressing, should I be causing my brothers in Christ to
Right.
stumble? Should I be causing random guys to be looking at me
Hmm.
knowing that I, and they know that I'm Christian, and
Hmm.
they know that I believe in Christ, and you're not representing Christ in a way that's good in that sense, because they're like, well, she says that she's a Christian, but
Right.
she's dressing like everybody else. So what's
Hmm.
the difference? Like I feel like modesty has just, you can be like, I felt more,
Hmm.
I don't know how to explain it. I felt more beautiful.
Yeah,
And I know that sounds maybe
but
super
it's
cringy.
true.
Like I feel like I like the way I dress now. Like I look back at pictures and I'm like, why
Man,
am I wearing that? Like it doesn't even,
same.
like, to me now,
Uh
like I have a
huh.
different perspective. I'm like, it doesn't look good.
I'm telling you.
Like, and I really like have changed my
Uh huh.
perspective on it, because I want to be a representation of Christ,
For
and
sure.
I've really tried my best to not only have done that with serving and growing my relationship with Christ, but also putting my clothing in that
Hmm. For
category
sure.
as well.
Hmm. Just
So
another act of surrendering, pretty, like
yeah.
surrendering your what you desire to wear, and it's like as it goes on, you don't even desire to wear that stuff anymore. You know
Yeah,
what I
because
mean?
I
Like
feel
it's
like it's
like
more of like an attention
for
thing. Like
sure.
it's
Hmm.
attention
Uh
driven.
huh. I'm like a year ago, the way I dress is completely different from how I dress now. Like just a year's difference. My shirts would stop right under my chest, my shorts right under, like it completely different now, and it was for attention. It was because I felt as though that was like the only way that I could get attention. And so, and it's like attention that I didn't even want. Like,
Yeah.
it's not the attention that I needed, nor,
Yeah.
God wants us to have.
Yeah.
So, it's intention based,
Yeah, and we're not like talking about like modesty like shorts that go all the way down like to your
I do,
kneecaps
yeah, no.
or like no holes. Like this girl literally has holes in her jeans right now. I normally have. I just wore this to work. And so like it's not like this crazy amount, and like whatever you feel like, there's a lot of personal convictions too.
For sure. I still have shirts that I wear that aren't completely covering, like it'll show like mid skin, and sometimes when I wear it, I'm like, with these pants, no, but maybe with these that are a
Like
little higher, yes,
yeah.
And so it's all like you said something along those, like it's within your heart. It's about your heart and your intentions, and what are you trying to gain from this?
Yeah.
What are you seeking from this?
Yeah.
So
I feel like we still look kind of like trendy right now.
I'm telling you, it's not that hard.
Not literally like to tap, like,
nah, man, don't give me a big head.
But like, I'm saying like not in the sense of like we aren't like we don't look completely different than like.
No, for sure.
Like we don't look weird.
We don't have those long skirts on with the it's just clothes at the end of the day.
I just think it's definitely a heart thing. And if your heart tells you like, okay, well, if I wear shorts, I feel like I'm gonna go around trying to seek attention in those shorts. Like maybe that's something you need to decipher, in your own heart. Like should I start with wearing longer shorts and then see where I'm at then, or like it's definitely a journey. It's definitely not just like a cold cut off, cold turkey. Like you definitely have to find what your convictions are and what they're not. I still wear Nike shorts. Like I wear basketball, like not basketball shorts, Nike shorts. And like I still wear skinny jeans, like, but at the sense like I'm not walking around where everybody's like, oh,
right, bending down real slow.
Yeah, like walking in front of people, pulling my jeans up.
Yeah.
Like trying to make a big deal about it, but like, I don't know.
That's just we came to the end just to get to the good topics. Like, dang, we didn't even cover that. Hey, that's okay. We're adding it in now. So that was good though, for sure. Lust, and that ties in big with like relationships and dating, because we need to be intentional about how we're displaying ourselves as well as how we want our significant other to display themselves. So,
and I feel like with like guys, in the sense like, I know modesty a lot of times talks about girls.
For
I know,
sure, yeah.
But like, you can also be modest as a guy, and if you are having a lust problem, like, I encourage you to like maybe take some time off of social media. Because I'm gonna tell you what,
for sure,
that is like the easiest thing now. Like I can be scrolling on my TikTok and be like, oh my gosh, thank you Jesus that my husband doesn't have a TikTok.
I'm so glad you said that.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
I've been wanting to take a break and just delete all social medias for so long, and the only thing that hasn't stopped me from deleting Instagram is this podcast. Is because I want to be able to spread this word and to be able to like have that platform for people to see like where to go. That's the only reason I haven't. And even so, with that, I'm like, maybe I can just send this to somebody else and they can post it for me, because like that's how like draining social media can be. It's like having that much access to other people's lives is not okay. Like it's not.
There's
good for
so
you
many
at
temptations.
all. Like. And not even like with just temptations, because there is, but it's just the fact of like comparison.
Yes.
Just being too invested in what other people are doing that you're not even focusing on yourself and like your relationship with God. Like it's too much access to other people that you don't even know. Like even celebrities. It's just crazy. Like social media is like it's useful but so harmful too. Like it's
So that would be my
for sure.
Is like, and even like women, like ladies, if there's also thirst traps, literally what she said. Like guys make them, and like if you are struggling with that, like I would like suggest to maybe take some time off of that, because it is so easy access. Like if you're able to like maybe just take a break from it for a while and like recoup and be able to really discern, okay, what do I want on my feed? Do I need to go and unfollow people? Because if I need to unfollow people and I can still be worshiping God on social media, then maybe that's something that I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's such a good hitter. Like, man.
there's so much to talk about. There is, like, because there's just so much that dictate everything. Like,
actually, everything like flows into something else. Literally, I don't know. I think we covered a lot though. I think we did
yeah.
good. I wonder.
Just strive for God's love, not
For
a counterfeit
sure.
love, not a fake love, not a love that sounds really good, but at the same time, like, you can think that, because the devil knows God. Like, the devil, demons know God. They fear God. But at the same time, like, they can make something that God made so great, and they can make such a cheap version of it, and you fall for it.
For
instead of
sure.
waiting for like the greatest thing.
Yeah, I heard one time, I don't know where I heard this from. I be hearing a lot of things but social media, but there was like, when God has something for you, the devil also has something, but in disguise as something good. Like what you just said, like,
literally.
So you have to have discernment to know like whether this one's from God or if this one's from. So man, that's really good.
And like the moment if you're single, like a purposeful singleness, like you can take that time to really know if this is something of God or something that Satan has counterfeited. Like that's like a moment where you can dive deep to really understand the difference.
That prayer, man. That's crazy.
Ooh,
I love that though.
That was a lot. I can go take a nap now.
I could too. I'm not gonna lie. I thought that was good. I think
that was really good.
A lot. Or I'm just rambling, not knowing what I'm talking about. But anywho, how do you want to end this?
I don't know.
I have no idea. With that being said, that is our podcast on relationships, dating, and singleness. What to do in like your single season, and how to be just content where you are, and not seeking or idolizing a relationship or marriage or anything like that. Just sum it up.
Yeah, so I would definitely like challenge like something. If we could challenge something, like I would say to really like do your own research and like dive into the Bible, like dive, because there's so much that we didn't even get to cover. Like we read some scriptures, and she'll put some scriptures up, but like really do your own reading in the Bible and really understanding, because us telling you gives a completely different perspective than you reading for yourself. So I would challenge you on that.
Read the word, y'all. Get into it. It's the most important thing that you can carry with you, honestly.
Yep.
Like, literally. I carry one in my purse, because just in case, you never know when impromptu Bible study might pop up. But that's it from us. We will see you in the next one. Yeah, for sure. Don't know what that topic will be yet, but it'll be good, because, it's us.
We'll probably talk still too long. Hey, but it's fun.
It's fun. It's fun, literally. I can go on all day. Let me stop. But okay, that is the Keep Me Different podcast for today. We got to find a better way to start ending these things, but that's it.
Stay different.